I recently had a quick conversation with one of my Instagram followers who said that she already sleeps much better, but when she goes through a speed bump, she always feels like she is not progressing. And I've been receiving these kind of messages for a long time, since the beginning I started coaching. And I noticed my own pattern here as well, and I just wanted to dedicate this video just to share my general thoughts and insights on that topic. So the thing here is that every speed bump plays tricks on our brain, on our mind, or in a way our brain plays tricks on us. So what happens during speed bumps, and that is valid for every speed bump, is that the brain enters the fight or flight mode. Basically, all its existence is turned towards the object of the fear, which is the possibility of losing sleep or not being refreshed and things like that. So basically, it is afraid of sleeplessness. And in that mode, what happens is that our perception of things changes. We think differently, we act differently. Things that used to make sense before don't make sense anymore. And it's completely normal that every speed bump feels like it's the worst one. It's something new, it's something unusual, and that's something that you've never experienced. And if you look back at all the speed bumps that you've had, and maybe you are currently going through one, you can maybe even tell that this speed bump, or maybe the last speed bump, felt like, okay, this is something new, this is something like unusual, or it's the worst speed bumps. But what happens eventually with this path of learning and facing with ups and downs is that eventually the brain starts seeing this pattern. It sees that after some time of sleeping better, we have clarity. And then once we enter a speed bump, we lose that clarity. We think that we are not progressing and blah, blah, blah. And then the clarity happens again. This is when speed bump ends. And then it happens again, the new speed bump, when it feels again that's the worst speed bump you've ever had, and so on and so on. So the process kind of like goes on and on. So the brain picks on this, like it recognizes that, okay, every time there is a speed bump, I behave in a certain way, I think in a certain way. So it kind of becomes acknowledged with that state, with that shift of perception. And the reason why those speed bumps happen is often because we fear that shift of perception happening. We feel like the clarity that we gain during our good stretches is so valuable that we don't want to ever lose that again. We don't want to get into the situation when things just stop making sense, like when it feels like we've forgotten, and so on and so on. So this is what we fear at some point. But then the brain starts seeing, okay, there is this tendency. And what happens is that eventually it kind of becomes familiar with the pattern, and it starts to accept this pattern. And this doesn't happen after 1 or 2 or 5 speed bumps. A series of speed bumps have to happen. Like it could be 20, 50, I don't know how many, so that the brain finally catches up with that, kind of starts seeing through those speed bumps and knowing the uniting quality of each speed bump. And next time when a speed bump happens, the brain already knows, okay, I'm entering this mode. So apparently I'm going to have a different perception of things. I'm gonna think this, I know I'm gonna feel this, and blah blah blah. So things stop being unfamiliar. And when things become familiar, and when everything is known, this is when the brain loses interest in this stuff. And that's the biggest kind of irony. By understanding ourselves during speed bump and embracing that nature of a speed bump, or the nature of the mind as it goes through speed bump, we actually start seeing less of those speed bumps, because the actual reason why those speed bumps was happening is because there was the fear of that losing the clarity and entering that chaotic place. And it doesn't happen instantly. It doesn't happen in a short period of time. The brain has to go through seeing those ups and downs and actually crystallizing that pattern for itself. Only then it can truly let go of control. So eventually what happens is that person stops being interested in having a speed bump, because it knows that yes, when a speed bump happens, I know this probably gonna happen. I know that probably I'm gonna think it's gonna be the worst. I know that I will feel like I'm not progressing. I know that I will have, I don't know, anxious feeling here and there and so on and so on. So I don't care. I went through this. I don't mind it. I will just wait until that stormy moment passes and then I will continue my life. And gradually, with that kind of attitude, the distance between those speed bumps begins to enlarge. So those speed bumps then begin to happen rarely, and eventually we gain this idea, or not even idea, but deep knowledge that even if a speed bump will happen in the future, be it like in 2 weeks, in 3 months, in 1 year, you know that you're just going to be okay through that period of time. You know that probably the clarity will be lost for a while. You know that, there will be some sort of like turbulent emotions, but you become a dispassionate observer to it. And oftentimes that's what people feel, this kind of loss of interest in solving the problem any further. This is when the problem-solving mechanism exhausts itself and we just begin to feel at peace with any outcome. And that is it's a magical place to be, because this is the end of insomnia. By not having any resistance to any possibility in the future, because you know that you're going to be okay.